Welcome to the Stellantis Tech and AI podcast. I'm Dale Jewett, your host, and in this episode, our guest is Marty Jagoda, who is Stellantis' Vice President for Strategic Technology Partnerships. Thanks a lot for joining us today, Marty.
Thanks, Dale. Nice to be here again with you.
Yeah, no problem. So I think first and foremost, tell me a little bit about what being the Vice President of Strategic Technology Partnerships involves.
It's a lot to handle in one job title, Dale, and there's a bit of ambiguity in there as well. Our company is a huge global enterprise, and we are working, in multiple sectors: batteries, autonomous driving, performance, execution, innovation. All of these things need to come together in one. My role specifically in managing our technology partnerships in the battery sector is meant to be that single-threaded leader, or that cross-functional guy that splits across all of the organizations to make sure that all of the right topics are at the top of mind at the right time to help improve our decision making. Those groups include engineering, purchasing, business development, legal, supply chain, manufacturing, a whole host of organizations. So again, maintaining a common level of information across all those parties all the time is very important to us.
All right. Well, as part of that, I see you mentioned our battery partnerships and battery relationships. So I think that's an interesting thing to bring up why we wanted to chat today, because I know you've had some involvement. We've recently made an announcement with our partner named Factorial. They're a developer of solid state battery technology, and we are doing a demonstration project. Would you like to explain that for us?
Yeah, let me start by saying that Stellantis has a great partnership with Factorial, which began formally in 2021. And actually, before I was in this role or my role was even created, our teams just work really, really good with each other. We leverage the benefits and knowledge of each party, and we constantly push each other for excellence on both sides. It's really, really nice. And without that in place, we wouldn't even be here having the conversation about this demonstration fleet. So I just really wanted to highlight that first.
So Marty, describe for me exactly how this demonstration fleet with Factorial is going to work.
So integrating solid state battery technology into our lineup, it starts with, the full system and how to ensure the cell level benefits translate into a vehicle. We have done lots of cell level development. We have done lots of analytical measurements at the cell level with our partner Factorial and internally with our vehicle architecture teams here in Stellantis. And really, we're looking to correlate those results. We need to understand those results. Is the cell and the pack layout the same versus traditional lithium ion? We have thoughts, but we need to correlate that and validate that. And we need to understand if there's other innovations that need to be made in order to make this technology what we think it can be at the vehicle level. Admittedly, there's still a little discovery going on right now, which is why we're going to start with a single demonstrator vehicle before moving into a full-fledged demonstration fleet.
Okay. This is all very interesting because here we are, we're working on an advanced battery technology, solid state batteries, which, from a consumer standpoint, I mean, they offer us a ton of promise, right? They are much more energy dense. So that gives us the ability with this technology, we can give our buyers a choice. We can say, hey, we can fill the battery box space with all this solid state technology, and you'll have a lot of energy on board, and you'll get a whole bunch of range. Or we can tailor the battery to where you want your range to be. And because these cells are more energy dense, we probably don't have to use quite as many of them. So now we've got other capabilities where we're going to take some weight out of the vehicle. If we go down that path, we regain space that we might be able to use for other features. And I think one of the interesting things is this is an advanced technology we're working on, and at the same time we're actually still working on developing current state technology. As at Stellantis, we have an aggressive rollout plan. We're on the verge of launching our Stella Large platform here in North America, which is going to spawn vehicles like the new Dodge Charger Daytona, an electric-powered American muscle car, and also the Jeep Wagoneer S, a fully BEV sport utility vehicle. So I think it's fair to say that your work is definitely on the cutting edge of our progress in engineering these days.
Yeah, starting with a solid architecture like the Stella Large, which we've chosen for this demo, is a great starting point. As you mentioned, we have a couple of really great vehicles that are soon to reach production and out to the marketplace with the Wagoneer S and the Dodge Charger Daytona. And recognizing that one is a Wagoneer and one is a Dodge, this architecture needs to span across an enormous amount of customer requirements from, again, the off road capability and everything we know of a Wagoneer or a Jeep type vehicle to the Dodge Charger Daytona. Need we say more, right?
Hmm.
We're coming out of the Hellcat and the Demon and the Red Eye era. And how do we continue that momentum with the Dodge Charger Daytona, utilizing newer propulsion and electrification? How do we do that? Um, so again, this architecture has been designed to cover a wide range of attributes from those, again, extreme performance, capability, and luxury as well. We can't forget about that. Starting with an architecture that has a production level of readiness, our engineering teams can focus solely on the vehicle integration element of the solid state battery cells. We can get the learnings that we need without having to debug or troubleshoot the core vehicle, the core bones of the vehicle to start. Within this, we plan to learn how to adapt the cells into the module and pack architectures, optimize to create, as you mentioned, the maximum amount of energy or the trade-off for space and vehicle mass at that level, and all the other thermal and battery characterizations as well. A few things that are interesting is, you talked about the energy density and mass, but what does that really mean to the customer, right? I don't think many customers are buying vehicles on energy density or how much they weigh, but there are
Yeah.
significant consumer attributes that are directly correlated. So, for example, the energy piece translates directly to range, a huge customer attribute right now when we talk about BEVs. The mass element, again, people don't buy a car on mass, but the mass reduction does correlate to things people do care about, such as performance, handling, and that off road capability. If we can shrink the size of the pack and
Hmm.
retain the energy, we get a huge mass reduction. Perhaps there's an offering where we want to extremely optimize and maximize the range. We have that knob we can turn as well. So, yeah, these are significant performance things. And when we talk about the car we're highlighting on the demo, the Dodge Charger,
Hmm.
again, that mass reduction is a big key. Mass reduction on a performance, on a muscle car, on a handling car means this car can go faster, it can turn quicker, and it can be more nimble doing the things that it needs to do.
Marty, your engineering background is seeping through as we talk about this, because the gearheads in the audience, you you talk about, hey, you get 100% torque instantly. Um, when that comes to seat of the pants, that's everything for a lot of people. And then yeah, if we can balance the weight, balance the center of gravity, um, making a vehicle perform and ride better. I mean, yeah, if you get great handling, great road manners without added mass, that's sort of a win-win. So I have to ask, what's your background? I think you came through the engineering part of the company.
So I'm getting very close to being with the company for 22 years this coming
Mm.
January, which is an accomplishment I'm really proud of. I absolutely enjoy working for this company, and it's been one heck of a ride. Um, Another interesting point: I'm second generation, and I'm also the fourth. So
Ah,
when you put those two things together, there's been a Marty Jagoda working for Stellantis for the last 50 years, which is something that I'm really proud for me and my father.
that's
Um,
right. A legacy.
real yeah, real quickly, I did my undergrad at Michigan State in electrical engineering, and then I accepted a role into the CIE program at Chrysler or
Hmm.
Stellantis. CIE is the Chrysler Institute of Engineering. It's a graduate program where you rotate through multiple functions over the course of 2 years, and at the same time in the evenings, you're getting your master's technical degree. The CIE program, just another neat note, is celebrating its 91st year this year. So this is a program that has groomed many, many leaders that a lot of people would be familiar with their names over the years. It's very cool. Um, the first half of my career, Dale, which is when you and I first met, 10, 12 years ago, was purely technically focused.
Uh-huh.
I was learning a lot, working in propulsion and working on vehicles and vehicle systems. I had the luxury of working in the SRT group for a big chunk of that time, working on the Dodge Viper, the Challenger, the Charger, and the 300 SRT models, and also the Hellcat variants, which was just one heck of a ride.
Yeah.
Um, the
Marty,
second half,
let me interrupt you there because
yeah.
I have to tell this story. So yeah, 10 years ago, the first time I met Marty Jagoda, he didn't know who I was. I didn't really know who you were, but we're standing in a field at a racetrack down in Ohio, Nelson Ledges, and I'd been sent there to do some communications work to talk about how we were developing this next generation of performance Charger and Challenger. And we thought it was a great story to talk about how the SRT engineers really tested the heck out of our vehicles. And one of the SRT tests was the vehicles had to survive 24 hours of harsh driving without any change. You weren't allowed to change anything, I believe, other than tires on the vehicle. You couldn't change anything mechanical on there. So you would go to Nelson Ledges and just drive the stink out of these cars down there. And we just happened to show up. There's nobody else around. And it just happened to be a time when one of your development cars was on the track, and suddenly the hood flew up while I was on the track. And I just remember you were sprinting across the field to go to the car come to a stop, and you were trying to go check on what the car was. And then you happened to turn around and see me and my colleague were standing there with notebooks and cameras, and you're like, who the heck are those guys? And now you're running back across the field because I think you had fear that we were the competition or something. Because that was my first interaction with Marty Jagoda, and that was outraged. But you're definitely a guy who truly believes in performance and engineering. So I've had the pleasure of hanging out with you at various events over the last 10 years, and I think it doesn't surprise me one bit that you're working on a project that involves performance in the future products of our company.
Yeah, no, I remember that like it was yesterday as well, Dale. Some of the details, it was a wild day, and you're right. Nelson Ledges it's a very unique track. We hustle the cars around there. It was part of our functional objectives. But security was always top of mind with us. And, the Hellcat programs, we tried to keep as secretive as we possibly could. I think that the industry and certainly our competitors knew that something was brewing. You can't keep the dragon quiet for too long, and that track, like many of the others that we went to, did not have a lot of security, and there were just people
Oh
kind of
yeah,
around. And you're
we
right.
we just we just drove in.
We had a development episode. It was a mule car, and I think because of how we had to cobble, the front end for the supercharger, and we had prototype hoods. Yeah, I think the latch mechanism struggled that day at the speeds that we were achieving, and yeah, I remember sprinting across and then seeing you guys and panicked, with your cameras, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that was a lot of fun. It was a great
it
way to
was a
meet you.
lot of fun. It was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun.
So,
And but yeah,
so
the second part of my career, has been really focused, on things that are more transversal in nature, operational excellence, strategy, planning, kind of seeing the other side of that business. Um,
uh-huh.
Selfishly, I like to think having a technical background makes me, armed and dangerous in roles like this, because I can ask challenging questions. I can pick up on, some of the technical nuances or technical cues to really, help push and drive and get the answers that we want. And I've had an absolute blast. I mean, like I said, going from the fastest performance now to the most cutting edge batteries, it's really blending, two of my favorite things that you could blend in my life, which is, performance just in general and innovation. It's really great.
Yeah. So, do you think performance will be a selling point for future vehicles as we make this transition to electrified propulsion?
I think performance will always have its place. Its performance is not for every customer, that's for sure. You have to understand your customer. If you listen to your customer, um, 99 times out of 100, you'll be right in what you do. And that's what we need to continue to do as we transform, through this new wave of the industry, is understanding, what customers want and the types of vehicles that they want to purchase. One of the benefits we have as Stellantis is we have 14 brands, right? And that might seem staggering, but it's also an advantage too, because it gives you a chance to leverage these architectures that we have that can cover a wide range of functional characteristics that the customer wants, but then we can fine tune by brand, by vehicle nameplate, what they want. And again, that's one of the reasons why we elected to focus on the Dodge Charger for this demonstration vehicle. It's clear solid state batteries have a place in the future. We want to be on the leading edge of that, and they're a very performance oriented battery that offers a lot of advantages. So we would like to see how far we can push the envelope with the Dodge Charger.
Is there an advantage to the fact that the Charger Daytona and the Jeep Wagoneer S both are using the Stella large platform, which one of four of our BEV native but multi-energy platforms? That offer you advantages or opportunities?
Yeah, I think it offers a lot of advantages. One, again, I think I mentioned it earlier that this architecture is at a level of production readiness. We have a couple of vehicles that will be out very soon on that. So it eliminates one, the stresses involved with, having to work with the nuances of that architecture when we're trying to focus on the battery. The other thing is the knobs that we have, at our disposal. How we want to engineer that pack into the car. We have a packaging space, but there's a lot of things we can do with that packaging space. Again, do we want a car that can, exceed many things in terms of range? Or do we want to focus, on the performance elements, and range isn't as big of a factor? We have those choices. Another thing that solid state brings, which is an enabler to all of these things that we've been talking about, is the ability for fast charging capability.
Mm-hmm.
As charging infrastructure becomes more widespread, more commonplace, the ability to have on the vehicle side something that can fast charge and take the high charging rate will be hugely advantageous for us, because again, it gives us the knobs to turn in performance, right? As you mentioned, when we were at Nelson Ledges, we only changed consumables and filled up the cars with gas. Well, every 30 minutes or so, we had to fill the car up. If you want to take a BEV around the racetrack, you're ultimately going to have to recharge the battery. So how fast can you do that, right? That's an advantage. The other thing too, again, as charging becomes more commonplace, it allows us to have, the ability to determine how much range does a customer need. If charging starts to look more like a traditional fuel stop, and you can recharge 70 to 80% of your battery in 5, 8, 10 minutes, there's some advantage there. And then again, you can take some more mass out, more performance, etc. So it's a very cross-functional, many knobs to turn, and we're playing with all of them right now as we try to optimize this technology for our customer.
That's interesting, because I really think, to me personally, one of the keys of getting greater acceptance or reducing the resistance to BEVs and electrified vehicles is being able to tell customers your day-to-day experience isn't going to change dramatically from what you have today. And that includes when you go to refuel your vehicle. Yeah, you're not finding a way to kill a half an hour, unless you happen to be on a family road trip and you need a half-hour break out of the vehicle to have some lunch or something. But other than that, a 10 to 15 minute stop for a recharge is entirely acceptable, I think, to most people.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this is, even my own knowledge, I need to continue to expand and understand. Living in the Metro Detroit area, there's always new cars around. There's infrastructure just to support the industry in southeastern Michigan. The housing. There are many neighborhoods and many people that can put charging systems at their homes and handle this. But recognizing, again, there are people that live in city centers that don't have their own garage to put a charger, and are totally reliant on public parking and public charging, etc. So again, A big piece of this is growing the infrastructure in the country and starting to, again, make charging feel more like traditional fuel stops. And when that can happen, there are some more advantages and some more knobs that we can turn at an OEM level to make that experience even more enjoyable to the customer.
Marty, I got to ask, because you have a window in this advanced technology and what we're working on. Do you get the itch to want to get back onto a vehicle program and do like what you were doing with the Hellcat?
Yeah, I do think about that. I really enjoy being on the leading edge right now. And I'll tell you, Dale, at one point in my career, I was running the Hemi engine family. I had
Mhm.
control of the entire Hemi engine family, pretty much responsible for the P&L and everything that went associated. We had 43 part numbers of Hemi that went
Mm.
into all the vehicles, 5.7s, 6.4s, Hellcats, etc. We supplied 5 or 6 different plants and we upped capacity to 600,000. Now those are days gone by.
Yeah.
But I got an opportunity when I was in that job to go lead a global planning and strategy group. And I will tell you, I will admit, when I was given that opportunity, it was very intriguing to me. But I thought it was going to be a box check of I go do this, and then I get back to the execution side and running a vehicle, and I enjoyed it. I
Mm.
enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, and that's kind of turned me to where I'm at in my career. But that being said, yeah, I do have the itch, at some point to get back into a vehicle program and really bringing something, that a customer's never seen, into their garage.
So in your job today, are you focusing just on battery technologies, or are there other strategic partnerships that are in your universe?
I focus primarily on our battery technology partners, but the battery is only one piece of the puzzle. There are many services associated with battery, whether it's battery health, battery digital passport stuff that's coming along, a little bit of charging. I interface with all of those teams,
Hmm.
maybe not as the key stakeholder or key spokesperson, but staying top of mind of all of those other elements, help drive what we're doing in battery, and also helps what we're doing in battery drive, these other areas that they're working on as well.
Cool. So, Marty, someone who's been listening to this podcast and thinks you have one of the coolest jobs ever and would love to do what you want to do, what would you advise them to how to prepare themselves to try and get on that kind of path?
Learn as much as you can in every job that you have. Firstly, um,
Hmm.
as you go through your career, um, you know, every step that you make, there's going to be something you learn that you think back and you go, you know what? If I knew that 5 years ago, I would have done that job so much better. So, keep an open mind. Learn every step you get, but also don't get discouraged on your career path. My career path is a great mentoring tool for the many engineers that I mentor at Stellantis, because it is about as unconventional a path as you can make.
Uh-huh.
But it's great because there's sometimes a common thought that if you don't take the linear steps throughout your career, that you're spiraling out of control or you're never going to get to where you want to go. And mine is a ping pong ball going across. So learn as much as you can. Take on extra assignments. um, Try to understand the people that are around you, the customers, your internal customers, your external customers, the inputs to you. Understand that, have an open mind, and the sky's the limit of your career. And really, that's what got me here. It's not because of my technical knowledge. It's not because I might have some level of business acumen. It's just because I've been able to put it all together and take pride, and I live trying to win the day. And if I can win the day, going 3-2 or 4-1 each week is a pretty darn good week. So that's what I strive to do.
That's great advice, Marty. Thanks. I appreciate you sharing that with everyone here. And you know what? Hopefully, in a year or so, we can go grab ourselves a couple of Charger Daytonas and maybe we go back down to Nelson Ledges and have a little bit of fun.
That would be a lot of fun for sure. I do know that they have repaved the track and it is very
Oh,
nice and smooth since the times we were there. So
ooh.
yeah, that could be a treat. That track is very high speed. It's
Mm.
pretty technical. It is a lot of fun
Yep,
to drive around for sure.
absolutely. Well, Marty, thanks a lot for your insights and telling us about Factorial and solid state batteries and everything you're doing inside Stellantis. And thanks to all of you for listening to the Stellantis Tech and AI podcast, which is where we speak with some of the brightest minds in the tech and automotive industries. We invite you to follow Stellantis Tech and AI on LinkedIn and Instagram to join the conversation, stay updated on what's ahead, and be a part of the community exploring the fast line of technology and AI in the automotive world. We'll see you again soon.